Hello, 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 welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today I'm gonna hopefully get this little EF on the dyno, and we're gonna tune it up using a set of Hunter tuned 1000cc injectors. So this car got dropped off quite a while ago, and it needed a lot of little stuff kind of addressed before I wanted to dyno it. I just didn't really feel comfortable dynoing it with some of the little issues that it had, so I talked to the customer and ended up fixing a lot of little things, injector wiring and stuff like that. They had the boost control running off of the injectors, and the clips and stuff that were on this thing were kind of broken. Wow, this camera does not like to focus. There we go. So yeah, the injector clips and stuff were broken, and they were just twisted and taped onto the wiring harness. So I actually just put some junkyard EV6 plugs on, and I soldered them onto the existing injector wiring that was on here. I fixed coolant temp sensor wiring down here. I deleted his catch can, and I just have a hose currently running straight up. I might put a breather on this because this comes from the black box down there, or I might tie both of these into a breather or put a little can on it or something, or tell him to. But for the dyno, this will be fine. And I also fixed his fuel line. This was just hose clamped onto the rail before, and anything that is you know, pressurized fuel, especially fuel injection stuff, hose clamps work, but they're not really the best. And there was only this little hose clamp back here tying it onto this, but this is flared, so the clamp and the flare should hold this end fairly well, but there was no flare on this side, and the hose was just kind of deteriorated. So I put an AN line on and tied that into his filter, ran it under the throttle body and into the feed line. I put a stock fuel pressure regulator on it and a new fuel pressure gauge, because the gauge that was on this car was reading like 65 when it was supposed to be at 0, and when it was running it was reading like 110 or something. So I put an accurate new gauge on it so we can be able to verify our fuel pressure. And the stock regulator works awesome on the Hondas, so I like running that, especially for guys up to, like, you know, 500 horsepower or so. And then this car had Bosch 2200s in it, which I flowed, and they seemed okay. One of them was a little bit lower than the rest, but they seemed like they should have probably ran fine. But this guy really wants a good street cruiser, street driver, so we both decided that a smaller injector is probably better for a little bit better drivability and stuff. I could have got the 2200s going pretty good, but the 1000s just run way better in my opinion for like a street car. Basic stuff here. So got that installed with my locking top hats and everything like that. The washers are all down there. Sorry, this wiring's kind of a mess, but you can kind of see down in here the washer at the base, the top hat, everything like that. Installed pretty nice. We can still move the injector side to side, so it's not bound up in there. A lot of times if you over tighten the fuel rail, you'll end up crushing the injector and it'll break. So you got to be careful with that. You don't want them loose up and down, but you want to still be able to move them side to side. And with the bottom washer that's installed onto this car, you will not push the injector down into the manifold and cause it to pop out of the fuel rail. So that's all done. I put a new MAC valve on it. So the MAC valve that was on here before, the wiring was broken. So we have a new MAC 4-port boost control. I have the wiring here. This is the pin going to A11. I gotta wire that and then get a power. I'll probably just get the power off of alternator or something like that. It can be constant or switched. So I'll finish that once we get it strapped down. I just want to at least get this thing off the lift because it's been on the lift for quite some time now. I gotta put this charge pipe back on, little stuff like that. It still has a couple little coolant leaks. I fixed 2 of them on the back of the motor, but the ones on the front going to the turbo, they're still like barely trickling. I'm just gonna send it because I don't think they're really that big of a deal. If it was my car, I'd probably just plug them off and loop the coolant so it doesn't go through the turbo. I also installed this Dash 3 oil feed on here, so that should be a little bit better. Hopefully it cuts down on some of the smoking on this engine, but one of the cylinders was a little bit low on this guy. Not critically low, but it might have a hairline crack in the one piston. I don't know. But I did talk to the guy that actually built this engine quite a while ago. My buddy Nick down in Milwaukee put this thing together, this bottom end, and he said it's a loosey goose. So she got some big ring gap and stuff like that. That might explain some of the smoking until it warms up. So we'll see how bad it really is. It seems to be clearing up a little bit more every time I run it. So I'm hoping deleting the catch can that was a block off before and just running it open, and then fixing the oil feed line, running a 3AN instead of a 4 to this Journal Turbo should fix some of it. Yeah, and then I don't know if any of it was fuel smoke. There was also a ton of water and oil in the spark plug wires and stuff like that, so I cleaned all that. Yeah, needless to say, this thing should be pretty close to ready for the dyno. I'm just going to get it off of the lift, and I'm going to back it over to the dyno. I did put a base file in the car. Not really a base file. I just pulled the file that was already on this thing. I pulled it off of the ECU, and he said it had drivability issues, and some of it might be in the tune, because I'm going to show you the map here. So I did adjust the idle fueling a little bit. This is the timing map that's on this car currently, and it's not the best. We have a little popcorn mod down here. Putting negative timing values at high vacuum here is going to give you that snap, crackle, pop when you let off, if you're into that kind of thing. And then you can see a lot of these timing values here go from 15 degrees at 2000 RPM, and then at 2500 RPM it's at 20, and then at 3000 RPM it's at 14.7. So we want to make sure that this is vertically interpolated, and our higher timing values are going to be at higher RPM. We don't want to run, low, high, and have it all jumpy like this. Cool thing about a lot of maps and stuff, you can see color changes fairly easily here. You can also see over on the 2D map that this thing it's just all over the place. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to show you the timing file, hopefully when I'm done. The same thing on the VTEC side too. This is the VTEC timing. Very kind of all over the place, but not really where it's actually in VTEC. It's flat, but still, I'm going to clean this up, make it look a little better. The fuel map, same way. It's got a bunch of, little dips and stuff like that we got to clean up. Want to make sure that we interpolate, so we don't have more fuel, less fuel, more fuel kind of thing. So we got to try to fix that. The VTEC side doesn't look that bad, but we're still going to try to clean it up as best we can. One thing I did want to address too is the idle timing on this thing is all over the place. So it's 27 degrees at idle, 1500 RPM, 18. We want to try to keep our idle area timing about the same. So what I usually do is I just take everything here and I'll just set it at like 16 or 15, whatever our target timing at idle will be, and then we can build off of this, work our way this way, and then work our way down. So that's how I'm going to build my timing map. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to start this thing. I did actually put some injector data in it already. I just did this little timing change quick, so I'm going to upload that. But it starts up good. Fires right up. So we're going to wait for the wideband to heat up and see how close we are on everything. Display. We're not logging right now. Come on. Honda does this. Does it do it for you guys too? Where like sometimes it'll log and sometimes it won't. It's annoying. Yeah, I just gotta leave it sit for a second and then it'll start logging. But we are a little bit rich, 11.1. So I'm just gonna pull some fuel out of this thing. I'm honestly just gonna take this whole thing and start over. We're just gonna interpolate all of it. And yeah, that probably wasn't the best idea. Just gonna try to get a basic build in this thing real quick. crackle pop, boy. Let's see if we can get this idle to calm down. It's idling kind of erratic right now. Yeah, you can see right here, this IEC duty is actually up. We don't want that. Let's make it low. There we go. Now it's a lot smoother. Alright guys, so I got the car on the dyno. I had to push a couple cars around, so that was kind of lame. Oh well. But yeah, it's on the dyno. Got it running on a base map right now. Seems to be running fairly smooth. I did drive it just for a little bit on the dyno, and I did notice, like, I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, man, injector issue or something else going on, because I'd be driving and the air fuel would be totally good, and then it'd go rich. Same cell, everything like that, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, man, I just tested these injectors. I don't know what it could be, you know, and I'm like, man, maybe I got some bad ones. I wouldn't think so, I haven't yet, but I was just playing around and messing around, and this is a stock regulator right here. And you can see our fuel pressure. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but it's at like 58. And all of a sudden it'll go down to like 40. And then it'll go to 60, and then 40, and it like fluctuates. So I don't know if it's low on fuel. The gauge says half a tank. I don't know. Or the pump bypass is sticky or something in the tank, because like the air fuel would change, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? You know, it's weird. Got no boost controller hooked up right now. I think it's gonna make like 8 pounds or 9 pounds, something like that. We're gonna do our first dyno run and see how it goes. Yeah, let's find out. I'm hoping that fuel pressure thing doesn't come up again. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it was like sucking air or something in the tank, causing the pressure to fluctuate. But when you change pressure, the injector acts different. So that's why you want to try to set your pressure and forget it, kind of thing. Car's driving pretty good right now, cruising, everything like that. I got the wide open stuff figured out for the most part. This cable clutch is kind of annoying though, because the cable, it's like not adjusted right, so it's not shifting the smoothest. So I might have to look at that, see if I can fix that real quick. But let's see what kind of power it made. I want to see if we're like even in the ballpark. Yeah, 313 horsepower on 10 pounds of boost. That was like 9 pounds or something like that. 7,300 RPM. I didn't spin it all the way out. This is what the curve is looking like here. So not too bad. 313, 229 torque. If I revved it a little higher, I bet you we'd make 330-ish. So yeah, not a bad start, that's for sure. Maybe we'll do another one. I'll double check on the data log. Everything looked really good. It's just like the cruising and shit, sometimes the pump just acts weird. The pressure seems to be changing. But it could have been a fluke. I don't know, it did it initially, and now it seems to be staying at 58. So, I don't know. These EFs, man, they're always fighting. They're always fighting. I'm gonna do a little start up here, show you how this thing starts up. Boom, breathe on the key. Runs pretty smooth, actually. Another thing too is the idle does seem a smidge low right now, and then it comes up, and then it goes down, and then it goes up, and then it goes down. It's not really like super consistent. One way that you guys can fix this, and I talk about it in quite a few videos, and you can actually get the air fuel better at idle. You can get, you know, you can just overall get it to run a little smoother, idling at like 950 or 1000 mechanically. So what I mean by that is I turn the idle air control valve all the way down, or unplug it, and then I set the idle manually on the throttle stop screw on the throttle body. And then once you set it manually, like watch, I'll rev this thing, and you see a dip down there is 700 and then up to 1000 when it came back. Yeah, see how it goes like down to 8 and then up to 1000. 90% of people don't like even notice that. But I do, and I know it's because the mechanical idle isn't set high enough. Because if we want to idle at 1000, we have to manually set it at 1000 and then have the idle air control do the rest. If it's manually set lower and you're just relying on the idle air control to maintain that idle, these idle air control valves aren't like fast enough reacting to where you can get it to not dip when you come off the gas or come up to a stoplight or whatever. So you gotta just try to do that. I don't think I'm gonna fix it tonight. I'm just gonna try to run through the tune and get everything else lined out. It is a little rich at idle right now. We're gonna try to fix that, like 800-900 RPM. It's a little bit trickier to get bigger injectors to idle smooth, especially at like a 60 PSI base pressure, which is what this is at. Typically I like to run like a 40 to 45 PSI base pressure, but for some reason this regulator must be getting overrun, because the stock regulator should be like 40. That's why I threw a stock one on it to kind of prepare for that, but I feel like it's just the lines are too small or something. I can't return it back to the tank efficiently enough. So just been playing a little bit around with some idle stuff and try to get that lined out. Another way that I like to get them to idle smooth is I'll actually turn the idle, mechanical idle, up to like 12 or 1300, and then with the idle air control off or turned all the way down, and then I'll pull timing out of the idle portion of the map, and that also will get it to idle smoother. So you can see we're at like a 12.7, 12.8 right now. If we pull any more fuel out of it, it's gonna start popping and shit. I'll try here in minus 15%. Like the air fuel is pretty steady, but it's popping. It's spitting a little bit out of the exhaust. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the mechanical idle now, and then we're gonna come back to this same exact idle area, and we're gonna see how it does after I adjust it mechanically. Because if we turn down the idle in parameters here, idle, we turn this guy down. Oop, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. It was in the middle. Now if we turn it all the way down and we hit upload, I don't even want to run. Let's see here, display. Yeah, it's all the way down to like 700 RPM. So I'm gonna go crank it outside of the car quick. Yeah, now the pressure is down to 48 or 50. It's just constantly moving for some reason. I feel like I need to put some fuel in it to see if it steadies out, or it might have a pump issue. I'm not really sure. But let's crank up that throttle stop. I don't know how many videos I can make talking about this, but people still, you know, they don't do this, and I feel like you should on any of them. especially aftermarket throttle body like this. Yeah, it's even sticking. That's another way that you can tell it's set way too low, is if you pull on this and it sticks for a second. Yeah, like it just shut off. You hear that sticking? That's the blade rubbing on the outer housing of the throttle body. It's set too low. So what I do is I take this flathead that's up here and I turn it all the way in, and I just set it manually right here. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna quit talking about it and just do it. We interrupt this dyno video.
Oh.
To say hello to Roxy and Christy.
No, that is not going in there.
So I did want to talk about this a little bit because some setups tend to pop a little bit more at idle when, you know, you put big injectors in and stuff like that. And it may look like maybe the injectors are the issue, but I think that this specific car, the timing is not perfect, and you'll see in the power curves as I, you know, go on with this video talking about it. So I'm trying to kind of band-aid it a little bit by doing some steps coming up here. And you guys will see this. The rest of the map off idle was perfect. Everything was real smooth and it ran perfect, really, you know, good air fuel and everything like that. But sometimes when the mechanical timing isn't perfect, which this setup, the distributor's cranked all the way one way, and when I shot it with a timing light, it was still off like 2 to 3 degrees. I talk about this coming up, but yeah, it's just like, I do this a lot on like big cam setups, like if a setup has some camshafts in it or, you know, just altered from stock, which this car could have cams in it. I don't even know what's in it. I just know it's a GSR. So I think in the next video, when we go to turn this thing up a little bit and get the boost control working, I'm going to double check the cam timing and show you the marks and where they're at. Because if the cam timing isn't like 100% perfect, you're going to have, you know, your valve events at the wrong time, and it can cause this kind of popping stuff. So like I said, it's really common with, you know, camshafts and stuff like that, where valve events happen at different spots and stuff like that. And the more I was tuning this car, it acted like it was retarded on cam timing. And I didn't check it tonight. I'm gonna check it tomorrow, I think, and I'll do a follow-up. But just wanted to let you guys know. I've tuned these injectors in numerous setups, and all of them idle really smooth. But some of them, they'll start popping and stuff like this, and I'm not blaming the injector on it. I'm gonna blame, you know, the rest of the stuff going on with the setup. I don't know if you guys will be able to tell on video how much smoother it's running now. I've been playing around with the idle a little bit, going up a little bit at a time until I get my desired target and not have it fall off and dip. No popping. Hold the exhaust. Nice and smooth. Running around 900 RPM, 950. So I'm gonna work it up just a little bit more, because it still does dip a little bit, not much, but we don't want it to dip at all. We want it to like come right back down to idle. That's what I like, at least. All right, guys, a little more nitpicking on the idle. And this thing is styling. I don't think this car's ever idled this good before. I hope he appreciates it. That fuel pressure though. Look at it, it's going crazy. All over the place. And this is a liquid filled gauge. It's still like, I don't know what's up with that. But look how steady this thing is. $14.2, $14.7. Nice and steady. Let's look at our idle speed. Right at 1,000. Let's rev it. Oh, I don't have the pedal hooked up. You guys ever do this when it's running? and then like hope to God that you snap it right. Like right here, ready? Boom, got it installed. Sometimes the cable will get hung up and it'll rev like, sit on the two-step. All right, let's rev it. Dang, boy. Another thing I do on the ignition timing to get rid of the dip is I'll have my idle timing, which is really low on this thing because of the way I set it up. Let's try to go to like 8. Man, this thing's got a really good heater. I like that. I like that a lot. Nope. And 5. And 5. Oh. So what I try to do to save the dip is I'll set my idle timing low, and then anything below it I'll cram the timing back in so it can't dip. It'll hit that timing to, like, you know, spruce back up. Let's see if that helped at all. Yeah, it's not bad. That's for sure. All right, guys, I'm gonna make another wide open run. See how she does this time. It really doesn't build boost all that fast, so I don't, you know, I feel like I could set VTEC a little bit lower. This is where VTEC is. It's like brrr, and then it spools. So yeah, full boost isn't until like 6K on this thing. I don't know if it's turbo sizing or maybe a boost leak somewhere. I did notice that the wastegate dump tube is actually rubbing the intercooler down in here right there, so I don't know if maybe that's possibly a boost leak. It's tough to say for sure, but we did make a little bit more power that time. Made 340 and it made about 11 pounds. I revved it a little bit higher. It probably would make 350 if I revved it even higher, because it's a ram horn manifold and they always boost creep. So that's a thing. You know, we were at like 9.5 or 10 pounds on the last run, and that one, revving it a little higher, it made 11. So if I rev it even a little bit higher than that, it'd probably make 12 or 13 pounds and make a little bit more power. So I'm gonna talk to the customer, see how much power he really wants to make. I think he said he wanted 400. Which we might hook up the Mac valve and see if we can fast spool it to get this thing lit up a little faster, because it's kind of slow to build boost. But other than that, it runs awesome. Cruising is awesome. Everything so far besides the fuel pressure moving around a little bit has seemed to be holding up pretty good. And honestly, I've let this thing run in the shop now for like probably 2 hours, just nitpicking little stuff, and it's been doing fairly good. So also a quick side note I did want to mention, this car would probably spool up faster and make better response if it had a bigger exhaust. It is a full like 2¼ inch exhaust. It's not very big. I was under the car. It's probably 2.5 inch pipe or 3 inch pipe, but it's got hard bent exhaust, like the stuff you buy at AutoZone with the wrinkles in it, and all those little wrinkles will really shrink the pipe at the bend quite severely. So having a mandrel bent 3-inch exhaust without the muffler would probably pick up a little spool time and stuff like that, but it's a street car. I just want to tell you guys, like, there could be, if it doesn't have a boost leak, that could also be an area for improvement. I even think the downpipe, no, the downpipe is fairly mandrel, but just some other stuff to consider. I can't wait to get back on track with building some of my own stuff here soon, so I can just talk more about this stuff and show you guys what I do on some of my builds, and hopefully you guys can copy it, or you know, take advice from it, or do what you want anyway, you know. Another thing I might check on tomorrow is the cam timing might be off a little bit. I don't know if the head and block have been shaved where, you know, the timing isn't really lining up the best, because the distributor being notched all the way that way, it's still retarded like 2 or 3 degrees at the crank. So, you know, them having to do that. I haven't actually verified cam timing yet, which I probably should have done right away. But it would explain why it's a little lazy. It would also explain part of why it's lazy, I should say. Should say. So I might just double check cam timing and make sure that it's not, you know, maybe it's a setup where it's shimmed a lot and we could move it advanced a tooth on one of them, because they'll kind of both line up kind of thing. And that might be part of why it is requiring me to do a lot of finesse to get it to idle smooth like I did. So there might be something else timing wise or something like that. Because if the cam timing is really retarded, it might lug around a little bit more. I don't know. It's just some thoughts that I had. Also, unhooked the battery before I left just because I wanted to. And this just like yanked out of this breaker. So I'm gonna have to re-fix this, probably solder it into there instead of crimped. But I'm finding the weak points on this thing, that's for sure. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. If you learned something, I don't know, hit the like button, do something like that. And once this thing's out of here, I told myself, I'm like, I'm gonna take a month off from dyno tuning other people's cars, and I'm gonna quit for a little while so I can build some of my own stuff and make some more cool videos. So I plan on doing that, but I think I actually have a car coming maybe this weekend that should be a quick in and out deal. I hope it is. If it is, I'll make a video filming it and stuff. But we'll see where all that stuff goes. And yeah, so anyways, thanks for watching the video, guys. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. God bless.